Hey YouTube, it is season turnover today, so don't forget your star piece. But also, there are two leagues starting up, Great League and Fantasy Cup Great League. Now, Fantasy Cup Great League, there's two things about this thing. Three things. One, no one's going to play it this week because Open Great League is on. Why would you play a limited cup with three typings when there's an Open Great League? Two, Fantasy Cup Great League, as you can see in the schedule here, let me just roll up here, is on next week as well. So Ultra League and Fantasy Cup Great League Edition. So it's on next week with Ultra League, which a lot of people won't play. So your best bet is to likely not play this week and just go Open Great League, test a new Pokemon out or buff Pokemon, and then play this next week. Because it is a 3-typing league, Dragon, Steel, and Fairy, and PVPoke has not updated yet. However, you can go into PVPoke and just put in the typings and do your custom rankings. So here are the custom rankings. Now, let's go over these rankings, and then I'm going to go over 8 teams from the past, because again, this is not new cup. Niantic is not good at creating new cup, so they just recycle old stuff. What you're going to see here is Pokemon. A lot of the teams are built with 8 and below. Turtonator, Lucario, Sandslash, Azumarill, Magnezone, Berserker, Escav, Clefable. Those are all on these teams that you're going to see coming up. You're not going to see Dugtrio. You're going to see Extra Jumbo with Mudshot. But Mudslap obviously got buffed last season. And I don't think this was around last season. If it was, I did not play. And Heatran now below 1500 with Magma Storm. So the rankings do look a little different. I think I'll tell you like where you can like just sub Pokemon in, because I had Excadrill on a bunch of team, like Excadrill, Berserker. They were on a bunch of teams anyways, which these top Pokemon can substitute pretty well for anyway. So it's okay. So why are these Pokemon all near the top? Well, because Mudslap got buffed. And if you remember the typings here, Dragon, Steel, and Fairy. So Dugtrio and Excadrill get in as a Steel type Pokemon, which resists Dragon and resists Fairy. And as a Steel Pokemon, you hit super effective against other Steel Pokemon. So 3 typings, you resist 2 of them, and you hit super effective against a third. Seems like a pretty easy recipe for a good Pokemon. So Mudslap, Dugtrio, plus Mudslap got buffed, right? So Mudslap, Dugtrio, Mudslap, Excadrill up there. And then again, not a Mudslap user, but Galarian Stunfisk, same thing. It is a Steel, resists the other 2, which hit super effective with Mudshot and Earthquake. Not surprising. The other Steel at the top here is Heatran. Heatran gets in as a Steel, but it is a Fire. Fire is super effective against Steel while still resisting the other 2. So it's the same concept about why these Pokemon, all 7 of those Pokemon, get in for being very, very strong from that perspective. So you should see a healthy dose of them, even though they're not. I mean, like Excadrill is on some of these teams, but it was used with a Mudshot user. Again, a lot of these Steels can just be replaced on the other Steels that I used. Turtonator. It's a Dragon, but you neutralize the Fairy weakness with a Fire. And again, Fire is super effective against your Steel type Pokemon, which makes it strong there. And then you have a bunch of Pokemon that have been used multiple times before. You have Lucario as a counter user, but it's a Force Palm user now. Force Palm hitting super effective against the Steels, while have Steel typing yourself to neutralize Fairy. Powder Snow, because you have some grounds in here. Azumarill is a Fairy, but it is acts more as a Water type with the Bubble, which hits super effective against these Pokemon as well, which is pretty strong. Magnezone, again, there may be more. Magnezone's kind of interesting because Magnezone has been on teams before, because you had like Azumarill and you had Tapu Fini and you had even just like neutral against Berserker and stuff you can hit for neutral with Wild Charge. Now you got a bunch of ground type Pokemon on the front here. Makes it a little trickier to run Magnezone. Just keep that in mind. Berserker kind of acted as a safe swap. Those are words. Shadow Claw is just one of the best fast moves in the game, and you have close combat, which kind of nukes, and then if you get against the Azumarill, you have the Trailblaze for super effective there. So that's what makes Berserker so strong. Tapu Fini, I just think is kind of a Azumarill light. Escav is your a lot of people ran double counter users, Lucario and Escav. Escav actually still has counter. Now, obviously, Lucario Force Palm jumps up the rankings. Clefable against, again, there's 3 typings, and one of them is Dragon, so hitting super effective against Dragon, neutral against other fairies. And then Registeel Fortress has 2 other steals to round them out. So here are the old teams, and we'll talk about just where you can replace it. So basically, Giratina, Berserker, Empoleon. This was a double steal team where you try to draw out a fighter. So use Berserker, try and draw out a fighter, your Lucario, try and draw out your Escav, which you can have Shadow Claw's Close Combat for, and then you beat them very easily with Giratina, and then your Empoleon roams free in the back. So I think I think this team still holds, right? If anything, it maybe even holds even better because counter got nerfed, so Escav may not be around as much anymore. You just got to kind of draw out the Lucario, and then Giratina will beat it there. So that was team number 1. Team number 2, I think this was like a cover your weakness team to a certain extent between Empoleon and Whimsicott. So like Empoleon weak to electric and fighting, and Whimsicott as your grass and fairy will resist electric and fighting. And then Whimsicott will be weak to fire, and Empoleon will deal with the fire, right? So that's just kind of these 2 cover each other's weaknesses. And the Mawile was one of those Pokemon where with Fire Fang, and hello, Fire Fang's getting buffed next season, hitting super effective against all the steals, right? Steel's 1 typing, Fire super effective against Steel, ramp up with Power Punch and Fire Fang to take out the steals. Now you have a buffed Fire Fang. So that could be a little interesting in this meta. Again, we will look at it next week when Ultra League is on. Same concept as team number 1. Stunfisk Lucario. Try to draw out a fighter with Stunfisk. Giratina beats it, and then Lucario, so we won't spend much time on that. Let's talk about Flygon, because Flygon was a really interesting one that it got in as a dragon, but having the Mudshot Scorching Sands combo was great for the steals. And then you still hit neutral against Fairy, and then you have the Dragon Claw for other dragons. So it gives you like a lot of coverage. Flygon was a go-to in this meta before. We'll see. Mudshot got nerfed, so we'll see how good I think it has maybe Sand Attack. It has other fast move options. You could also just go Dragon Tail, but with so many steals on the top, I don't know if that's the best option. Or talking about Empoleon and Clefable, just like one of your couple fairies to deal with the dragons that you're gonna see. Escav is your counter user. So Escav, Lucario, pick one of your 2 counter users that you have that get in as steel types. Azumarill is just very bulky. I mean, it's Azumarill, right? Sorry, I clickbaited all of you into the video on Sunday. It was used 75% on, I think that was day 2, those numbers. It was on 75% of teams day 2 because it is bulky. It has good coverage. Even against bad typings like grass, you still can hit for super effective with Ice Beam. Not that there's grass in this meta. There's Whimsicott, so that's not totally true. And then there's all these ground steals at the top now, and then you resist fighter. So Azumarill should still have a ton of play. And then Bastiodon. Honestly, I don't think I use Bastiodon right now. Double weak to ground, rock, steel, double weak to ground, and all those ground users at the top. I think this is one where you just need to use your kind of judgment. Be like, that doesn't really make sense right now. So this is basically double weak to fighting on the lead and cover your fighter in the back. Azumarill and Togetic in the back. Double fairy. I don't even know if there's any poison in this. But you can try and draw out a poison with Azumarill, punish it with Sand Slash. Again, you cover your Sand Slash fighting weakness in the back. You cover the fire weakness with Azumarill. So that works out pretty well there. Turtonator is another one. Did I already talk about Turtonator? No. Turtonator gets in as the dragon, but it's half fire, so the fire is relied on way, way more here. You have Incinerate to deal with all the steals. You can have a Flamethrower. You can have Overheat as your fire type move. And then you still have your Dragon Pulse to deal with the other dragons. So it gives you some coverage there. And the fire neutralizes your fairy weakness. So that's what makes it super, super strong. And another ABB style team where you're trying to draw out a fighter or a ground to beat for Lucario. So like try and draw out those Mud Slap users with now Force Palm, like Close Combat or whatever you want to use. Try and grab a shield from those ground type users. Beat it with the Azumarill, and then your Magnezone will not have to see the ground type Pokemon unless they're running ABB ground, in which case that makes it a little tough. Yeah, so you can do like an ABB. So in terms of new teams, you can just plug and place, I think, Excadrill, into where you saw like Galarian Stunfisk or where you saw any steel, really. Same with the Doug Trio. I think you could do like a double ground team. If you're going to use a double ground team, you probably want to cover your Sand Slash weakness and maybe a bit of a Azumarill. Because Azumarill with the bubble will be super effective. And then Sand Slash with the Powder Snow will be... no, what? Powder Snow will be neutral. Because they're half steel. So super effective on the ground, but resisted on the steel. So that's actually neutral. So maybe you want to cover Azumarill more than you want to cover Sand Slash. And Sand Slash, what am I talking about? And Sand Slash you have Mud Slap for, so don't worry about Sand Slash. Worry about Azumarill. Yeah, the super effective bubbles are going to be your main weakness here. Your other main weakness, you actually probably want to know if going back to the teams, the Whimsicott, Fairy, Grass. So any grass type Pokemon, again, neutral because of steel, but those Mudslaps would be resisted. So anything where the Mudslap is resisted gives them an advantage. And there's a lot of things that take super effective from Mud Slaps. So going with the grass Pokemon like Whimsicott gives you a really strong options against these Pokemon. So Whimsicott will core break that, but then you got your Heatran and Turtonator for super effective fire. So if you're going to use that Doug Trio Excadrill, maybe you maybe you want to use Heatran or Turtonator to deal with the Whimsicott, but then you still have the Azumarill bubble. So again, just some things to think through. We'll do a little more team building for newer teams next week. Again, I'm just going to showcase just the rankings if you want to play, just teams from the past, just to give you an idea of what the teams look like. My thoughts on just like the buff slaps and how strong they're going to be. And then we're going to completely ignore this for 1 week and come back and do it all again next week for top teams for this league, because I shouldn't say nobody. 95% of people will not play this league. 95% of people will play Open Great League. Why not? It's been a very, very healthy meta for the Great League. Few buffs that we want to test out. The Ice Punch, check out my video this morning. We want to check out the Diggersby, the punch buffs on Diggersby for Fire Punch, Sand Slash for Ice Punch. We want to test out the new Pokemon in Starmie. We want to check Barrel. We want to test out maybe the all the new fangs on this, like the Thunder Fang on Steelix, the Ice Fang on Arctibax. We want to test out the Thunder Shock buff on the Electric. How strong are they going to be with all the ground in the meta? So lots to look at in the Great League, and that is the plan. My voice is starting to go on me, so I'm going to call it right here. Let me know what you're playing. It's not even let me know what you're playing. Let me know if you're actually playing this or if everyone's just going to play Great League. I think everyone's just going to play Great League, but maybe my assumption is incorrect. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. Good luck next season, and I'll see you guys in the next one.